And good morning, beautiful people of the center. Hi. So, this morning we're starting a new book to guide us in our topics, and our topic is the secret teachings. It comes from this book, the Kybalion, and it is a 1908 book, and it is anonymous. And it is said to be a summary of the key teachings of Hermes, also known as Hermes the Three Times Great. Um, a, a legendary spiritual teacher who apparently was very influential in the early religious development, the faith traditions of the world, said to have developed a teaching that represents a core of truth that can be found running through all teachings. Apparently, that's what it's about. And it's published anonymously, this book, by a person or three people who call themselves, or him or herself, the three initiates. And it summarizes the 7 key ideas in the teachings of Hermes. It's presented as secret teachings, secret in the sense of being closely guarded, in the sense of not just being thrown out there for anyone. Because the idea is that, the problem with common knowledge is that it's common, right? And maybe a more polite way of saying it is that when everyone or nearly everyone believes something, there's a danger that we stop thinking and just accept it and just start to go along with it. It becomes part of the group consciousness. So that's the idea of it being secret. It's not known by the group consciousness because it's deeper. And it shows up in our culture. Here's one of the symptoms. Have you heard people say, I Googled it? Right? And they say that even when they're not using Google. That means they looked it up on the internet or they saw it on Facebook, and then they don't go beyond what comes up immediately. So then they base their understanding of something on the first page of search results. Then it becomes real. When in fact, people get caught out by that. I did. I was caught out by that. I saw something online, and it was on the internet. It must be true. Something about what the Pope said. And because it was on the internet, I stopped thinking and I carried on reading. Now I'm remembering something my grandmother said. She said, if it's too good to be true, right? Well, it turns out that it was a fake site. It was a parody, and I based a whole sermon on it. That's the problem with common knowledge. Another thing about this watching carefully what you believe and what you go with, it comes from my grandmother. She would say, a little bit of knowledge is dangerous. You need more. That's the idea of secret knowledge and this vast common knowledge. It's not that it's being withheld from us, it's that we have to go further and deeper into it to get it. I was talking to a friend of mine in the food industry, and he was talking about that. That little gadget, a mandolin grater? It's an amazing instrument if you know how to use it properly. Because if you don't, then you get sliced fingers with the carrots. Right? You got to know a few things more. You got to at least know how to protect yourself, and you have to be conscious. So if you can get into trouble if you only, on the surface it looks easy to use, but it's not. Or like over-the-counter pain medication. I just was on a ride from San Francisco to Los Angeles. We did, yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. It was 545 miles over 7 days, and Kevin Craig was my biking partner. Kevin, stand up there. He's got his jersey on. I want to thank our librarian, Matthew Duran, who actually trained us to do it. And one of our past board members, Jeff Basham, he went on the ride as a roadie to, carrying stuff around. It was amazing. And we raised nearly $17 million during the ride. Yeah. But the reason why I bring it up just after talking about over-the-counter pain medication is because at each rest stop there is support, medical support teams, and with all sorts of things. And I noticed riders there just popping ibuprofen and other meds to help cope with the pain and aches, you know. But the downside of just dealing with it on that surface level and not knowing the deeper information, like the maximum daily allowable dosage, is that it can cause severe adverse effects. It's not enough to just know that taking the pill will take my pain away. It's not enough. There's more. There's a deeper hidden knowledge that you got to go for. And it's a knowledge, it's an information that matters. And, I could see the riders lying to the medical staff. They say, how many have you taken today? Oh, none. And one doctor explained to me that the number one cause of ulcers in the advanced age community of our time is over-the-counter pain relief medication taken incorrectly, like too much, too frequently on an empty stomach. It's fascinating. So in the book, the authors talk about hidden information, secret teaching, from the understanding that not all knowledge is appropriate for all people, and we will come to the appropriate knowledge for our journey when the time is right. And that those of us who are not ready for certain knowledge, we can get ourselves into trouble. In fact, sometimes when we come upon information, we can scorn it or be upset by it because we haven't understood the deeper part of it. Like try to tell people you can't pop another ibuprofen. They don't have the deeper knowledge, so they get mad at you and attack the messenger. In the book, and it's this 1908 language, it's really beautifully written. It says, these people teaching this hidden knowledge have never sought popular approval, nor numbers of followers. They are indifferent to these things, for they know how few there are in each generation who are ready for the truth, or who would recognize it if it were presented to them. That's a statement. And it got me to thinking about our own movement, Centers for Spiritual Living. And because, you may not enjoy hearing this, but as a movement, we've never really grown in numbers. And, we wonder sometimes why is that the case. And I think part of the reason for it is that we are not in step with common ideas of spirituality. We don't meet that need. We're not mainstream at all. We appeal to a fringe market. Because some of the common ideas of spirituality is like, I don't need to read the user manual or the instructions. I don't need to practice. Just give me the relief. And we don't meet those needs. We can't. I remember one of our teachers saying, here at the Center for Spiritual Living, we have more questions than we have answers. And that's not satisfying to the masses. I think it seems to me some people really want answers. They don't want ambiguity, and that's what we've got. We've got ambiguity. There's a strong inclination to go with the flow, to stop thinking and just get the information for my life from the first page of search results. Just go with that. I saw a meme recently on the internet, and it must be true if it was on the internet. And it says, only dead fish go with the flow. Right? Yeah. And I people who go against the flow, maybe you can think of some examples of people who have got themselves into a lot of trouble in our history. Because when they latch onto an idea, especially if it's an idea that relieves pain, it's very dangerous to question that idea. I'm thinking of an example right now, like today, to question the existence of God. It's very unsettling. It has that element of danger in it, and crazy, and shock. It can even cause outrage that you would do that. It means things about you. Not allowed to question it. But I like to. I love to question it. Or how about this one? To question the personality of our Western God. Ooh. But I like to do just that. I do. I like to ask the question, is the common idea of God a reasonable concept for people in 2015? Or I like to question, is it good to protect and advocate faiths that teach violence, discrimination, and hatred? You see, the room goes quiet, right? Yeah, it's the sacred cows. You're not allowed to think about that. See, to the common culture, these questions are an irritant. Oh, but for those who are ready for them, oh, it is like water to the thirsty cyclists at the top of the first day's 6,000-foot climb. Good metaphor. Huh? I'm really enjoying the old-style language of the book. It talks about the teachers of the hidden knowledge saying they reserve, now listen to this, they reserve the strong meat for adults, while others furnish the milk for babes. They reserve their pearls of wisdom for the few elect, who recognize their value and who wear them in their crowns, instead of casting them before the materialistic, vulgar swine who would trample them in the mud and mix them with their disgusting mental food. I love that. See, I couldn't get away with saying that, but it says in the book, and I love it. Because I can think of some examples. Can you think of some examples where some beautiful teachings have been trampled into the mud and turned into something commonplace? Examples of teachings of love that have been taken and trampled into a practice of hate. I can think of examples. Whew. You know, in the evenings, the program directors would get up at the campsites after each day's ride and they would do presentations. And one of the directors got up and told a story about a woman who came to her and, well, basically confessed. That's what it felt like, a confession. And the woman told the story that at about 14 or 15 years ago, her son, aged 21, came home very ill, found out he was HIV positive and was basically dying of complications from the infection. And he came home to be with her, and she rejected him based on what she had learned from her faith tradition and sent him away. And, you know, I'm not even going to say what faith tradition it is. It doesn't matter. The point is that he died away from his family. And she was outraged when these riders started to ride through her town. Thousands of cyclists. And she started to watch them year after year, first from the sidewalk, then a little closer, and then watching closely and more closely until she started to see the love and compassion and support and camaraderie, until 10 years later she volunteered to serve food in her small town for the people riding through. And her confession to the director was that in some small measure, it was a comfort to her to know that even though she rejected her son, he might have had the help and support from people like this. Amazing. You know, and it left me thinking about, if you and I stop and settle for surface knowledge of a faith tradition, of the common kind, you know, if we stop thinking and just carry on with the mob, we might hurt ourselves or the people around us. You know, if you and I let religious leaders corrupt our natural inclination to love and nurture and accept and help, well, we may not be ready for the strong meat of the teaching. We might just still be dead fish going with the flow. Oh, it takes courage to stand firm and say no to common knowledge. Here's what it says in the book. And the spirit of persecution has not as yet died out in the land. 1908. There are certain hermetic teachings which, if publicly promulgated, would bring down upon the teachers a cry of scorn and revilement from the multitude, who would again raise the cry of crucify. Oh, don't we want to know exactly what those teachings are, right? Well, we're going to be talking about it this month and on Sundays and Wednesdays. The first one is the unity of mind and the power of mind. And another is the relationship between cause and effect. And another is about the dual nature of the universe in the one unity. Sound familiar? And oh yeah, it's not for everyone. The cry of the multitude. Well, we call that the group mind, where the common knowledge resides. Unquestioned knowledge, just go with the flow. I'll give you an example. Like Christmas, for example. Christmas is a season that is a mishmash of traditions. Nobody even knows what stew that is. It's not biblical. It doesn't appear anywhere in the Bible. And it is obscenely commercial. Obscenely. And it has displaced the truly important holy day of Christianity, which is, thank you, Easter. And none of this matters to the group mind. And the sentimentality of Christmas is like an over-the-counter pain relief. You just got to go with it and just get into the spirit. And you had better be ready for an avalanche if you question it. I know I'm going to get letters. But you know, if you start thinking about it, the whole thing starts to crumble. You've got to be slightly unconscious to go with it. You've got to turn a bunch of blind eyes. Here's another one. How to pray. What prayer is about. Ooh, that's a sacred cow. On the right, one night we were sitting down getting prepped for the next day, and the director said, okay, y'all, I want you to pray for good weather. I thought to myself, what does that mean? I mean, is he expecting us to go into our tents and put our hands together and ask God for good weather? And I wondered if anyone actually did that, because the weather was bad. Or maybe that was more of a wish. You know, let's all wish and hope for good weather because it would be a good thing. Or maybe it's just an expression of our language. Let's all just hope for something good to happen. And what use is that? See, there's an unpopular difference between that common culture of prayer, wishing and hoping and begging and asking and beseeching and requesting and appealing, and another more hidden teaching about how prayer works. The one is not similar to the other. But it's difficult to give up that older form when you've been trained in it and you've been going with the flow of it. It's so easy to revert back to begging and asking so quickly, like that. So they have this clinic on the ride called the Butt Clinic. Excuse my language, but that's what it is. Birds, I don't know if you ride a couple of 100 miles on a bike, you chafe. Anyway, I find out at the Butt Clinic they've got this night cream, which is wonderful. If you apply it, it has a kind of a topical painkiller on, and so I was delighted to have that. And then I found out in the morning they have a day cream too. Go to the Butt Clinic before my 5th day's ride. And sit in line, waiting, expecting to get my lotion, and the beautiful kind Doctor ushers me into her waiting room and says the dreaded words, place your elbows on the table and drop your bike shorts. And suddenly my face, just like, like my cat when it's time to close the door at night and he's looking around, how do you get out of here? How do you get out of here? And my mind kicks into gear immediately as I realize what is about to happen. I say, please, God, do not let this happen. I'll be good. I'm sorry for everything I've ever done. But God did not answer my prayers. The doctor did. You see, I've learned a new form of prayer at the center, and I'm very grateful that I have. It's called spiritual mind treatment, and it is not characterized by begging or beseeching or asking or desperation or wishing or hoping or bargaining or negotiating, or it doesn't need passion to make it work through. You don't have to have deserving. There's no thank you. It's a whole, all of that is common. This is a hidden teaching we've learned here. It's something else. And not everybody is willing to go into that next hidden layer because it is so popular. The sentimentality of beseeching is so popular. You can't touch it. But there is a hidden teaching. Here's what it is in our way of saying. We should be careful to distinguish daydreaming and wistful wishing from really dynamic and creative spiritual mind treatment. When we treat, we do not wish, we know. We do not dream, we state. We do not hope, we accept. We do not pray, we announce. We do not expect something is going to happen, we believe that it has already happened. You see, spiritual mind treatment is characterized by something else. It's called attention or focus or inner knowing or accepting or seeing or looking in to the secret place inside where the peace is already present and doing your work from there. On the hills, on the ride, especially going downhill, you're surrounded by incredible views. Amazing, and sometimes it's a very dangerous descent. And if you're a beginner, like Kevin and I are, you have to pay attention to what is important. You can't take in everything else. You can't be distracted by the beauty, nor can you be focused on and distracted by the potential danger. That in itself is dangerous. You have to call your attention quietly and gently to each moment that is in front of you. And that's what spiritual mind treatment is like. You have to focus, refocus gently on the place of silent peace within. You have to gently remove your focus from the story of the perceived danger and bring it in. There were a few unfortunate spills on the road on this year's ride, and Kevin had one of them. And he hit a hole in the road, going down a hill, 20 miles per hour. It was just a freak accident, bad spot in the road. And I was ahead of him, and I saw the whole thing happen in my rear view mirrors, like in slow motion. I saw the bump, I saw him go up, I saw him hit and bounce. Woo. And I didn't start begging God. That's not how I've been trained. Fortunately, what I've learned kicked in immediately. And instead of saying, oh my God, or please God, or help, instead of doing that, I noticed that I immediately began to look inward for that place of peace. So that quickly and efficiently I could stop and run. All the while activity was happening and people were coming. Like that thing about the eye of the storm, where there's this deep quiet in the midst of all this activity. And I was there in that place. I was just doing my work all the while, quietly, serenely, focused inwardly, attentive. I wasn't asking God for a favor because, in my opinion, and I've learned this a long ago, that's ridiculous. To me, that's my opinion. It's just ridiculous to ask God for a favor. I prefer what I've learned here. And it's something that appears in the Hermetic tradition, and that is my inner life is my personal use of the creative mind of the universe, and the way I use my inner life, my mind, has an impact on my experience and on the experience of people around me. Or, as Ernest Holmes says it, a person who is always distraught cannot give a good treatment for peace. So there must not only be the image in the person's mind who is giving the treatment, but there must be an appreciation of what the image means before the image can reflect itself. Otherwise, it's a word and not an embodiment. You see, there's another layer. So that's what I was doing. I was silently, quietly, while active, accepting in my mind an image of health, cooperation, ease, wholeness. And when I say accepted, I don't mean desperately, not in the sense of reaching. That's not the character of spiritual mind treatment. And I had to drop urgency and remind myself to drop fear and drop urgency again and go back. I had to go exactly against my instinct to panic and freak out. Ernest says there's a vast difference between holding thoughts and holding things in thought. One is the attempt at an impossible coercion. The other is mental acceptance. To hold thoughts as though we were forcing issues does no good and utilizes but a fraction of the creative power at our disposal. To hold in thought as though we were letting something happen is to use the greater power, the greatest power of all. Well, did it make any difference, all this work I was doing? Who is to say? Could just be a string of coincidences and luck that caused everything to seem to work together as if clockwork. And the person right behind Kevin on the road was a high-level trauma nurse. Within instants, paramedics were there, and the on-site doctor just happened to be there. And they were able to establish quickly that there was nothing wrong with him, and rightly so, they insisted that he go to the emergency room to be checked for fractures. The emergency room, there goes my mind again. Bam! Oh, dear God, don't make me have to go through that. And I went, whoa, nearly fell off that precipice again. Remember, no, that's not the character of what I've learned. That's like hoping for good weather. So I had to go back. I had to step back and to accept an image in my mind of peace and ease of passage. Did it make any difference? I don't know who is to say. It could be a string of coincidences and luck that caused things to flow the way that they did. I mean, we got to the emergency room very quickly, no delays. We were admitted instantly, no delays. We were seen immediately, no delays. And right after we went through, there was just a flush of people coming into the ER room. And right after we were seen and x-rayed, and there's no broken bones, just an aching butt and bruised hip. And when we were sent back with the clearance from the doctor, I realized, oh, it's 10 o'clock already. And there goes my mind already. It's going to be dark. How are we going to put up the tent? We haven't eaten. We need calories. Oh, there goes my mind again. Oh, God, what now? I'm going to step back from that precipice. That's not what I've learned. That's not the character of my inner prayer. That's like hoping for good weather. So I had to bring back my mind, and regularly that day, I had to bring back my mind to its knowing. And don't you know, when we got back to camp, Jeff Basham, our roadie who used to be on the board and training to be a practitioner, told us he had been treating for us too, and he had set up our tent for us and brought our luggage out. And while we were arriving, there the emergency medics on staff had saved food for us, and there the beautiful doctor who had patched up my butt earlier was on duty to welcome us and tell us how wonderfully we had done. The next day in the morning we woke up and it was the last day. 60 miles remaining to go to the end. I had one look at Kevin and I knew he was not going to be able to get up, let alone take a tent down by himself. He tried to fool me into thinking he could do it, but he couldn't do it. And so I stayed behind to help him. And we both admit we felt a little bit of sadness as we watched all those riders go off for the last 60 miles. So close. And then we went in the morning to get our bikes where they had been picked up by the support people, and they call it sagging, and on all the bikes. Well, there were many people that for some reason couldn't make it, injury or just loss of energy or whatever reason. All the bikes were standing there, and on top of each bike saddle was a plastic egg strapped there with a rubber band. And inside each plastic egg, there was something like a fortune cookie saying, and mine said, "You have touched the lives of countless people you will never know." It's amazing. And the person who did that has been doing it for 20 years. Taking the time in the dark of night to put the eggs on top of the bikes that are for the people who have maybe lost their courage or their strength or whatever it is, to give them back their encouragement when facing a moment of disappointing, and appropriately enough is now known as the chicken lady. Seeing those eggs, it's very meaningful to me because I realize, sometimes when I'm facing disappointment or discouragement or pain, I may not always be able to attain that place in spiritual mind treatment of deep knowing for myself. To accept an image of quiet and peace, and I might not be able to do that. But someone else might be able to do it for me. Oh, there's such power in that. I got so much strength from the chicken lady. And it's why we have our Grinton Chapel set aside for use for this purpose every Sunday with prayer practitioners on duty, so we can go to them and tell them what it is that we are attempting to accept, what we desire to accept. And then they do it with us. They do a spiritual mind treatment for us. It's not therapy. And there's no need to explain to them how it is you got to the point of making your request. You know how we are. I've got to explain to you the whole drama. I find that the less I know about the drama, the easier it is for me to be clear about the acceptance. Because if you start to explain it to me, you're going to enroll me. I'm going to start believing with you the problem. So the less I know, you just tell me, what is it you want to accept? Health, wellness, employment, ease, and then I can go about my work to accept a mental image of that for you. Oh, if you haven't done that for yourself, I suggest you do it. Just find time to let them know what it is you'd like support in. And we'll continue to talk about the teachings, the hidden teachings that take us deeper, both in Science of Mind and the Hermetic tradition on Sundays and on Wednesdays. So for now, let us take a moment to turn within. And accept a mental image for yourself or for someone else. You can abandon any attempt to fill in the details. It's irrelevant. You're looking for the quality. Perhaps it's wholeness or wellness. Just a general sense of well-being, and maybe you're not even able to identify the words of the quality. The feeling tone even. Without effort, if we notice any effort creeping in, we just step back from it and return to accepting an image And when I say image, I mean concept. It's been a thought or a feeling or a remembrance of well-being. We can do it for ourselves or for someone else. And we do it in the acknowledgement that there is a spiritual law that responds to us when we do this work. That's why we need no effort. This is our beautiful prayer work. And we let it be. And so it is.